My hands were shaking as the alarm screamed through the bridge. Red lights flashed across every console. The warp coil had just exploded, and we were falling out of faster than light travel, straight into enemy space. I gripped the edge of my chair and tried to keep my voice steady. Status report now. My second officer, a tall man named Peter Holloway, was already pulling up. The damage reports, his face had gone white. Captain Vasquez, we have a total coil failure. Main engines are offline. And GT snorts. And GT, life support is at 60% and dropping. And, ma'am, there is something else. Spit it out. We just dropped into the crash system. We are 3,000 km above their capital planet. My stomach dropped through the floor. The Kresh were the most feared warrior race in this part of the galaxy. Their fleet outnumbered ours by 80-1. Their soldiers stood 9 ft tall and had 4 arms each. They had conquered every neighbor they had ever met, and my broken ship had just fallen into their front yard like a stone into a pond. How long until they board us? Peter swallowed hard. 30 minutes maybe. Less. 3 of their warships are already moving to intercept. I stood up slowly. My name is Elena Vasquez. I was 42 years old, a captain in the Earth Diplomatic Corps, and I had been sent on this mission because my superiors thought I was the calmest person they knew. My ship, the Goodwill, carried a crew of 3 and a cargo bay full of cultural gifts. No weapons, no armor worth mentioning. Just me, Peter, and our engineer, young woman named Clara Briggs, who was currently crawling through a broken access tunnel trying to save what little power we had left. We had been sent to make a peaceful first contact with a Species 2 systems. Away, not the Kresh, never the Kresh. My orders had been very clear on that point. Stay away from the Kresh. Do not provoke them. Do not even fly near their borders. And now we were going to die in their orbit. Captain Peter said quietly, "What do we do?" I looked at the main screen. 3 massive warships filled the view. Each one was 20 times the size of my little diplomatic vessel. Their guns were powerful enough to turn my ship into vapor in a single shot. "We do the only thing we can do," I said. "We open a channel and we ask for help." Peter stared at me. "Ask them for help, Captain. They will tear us apart. Not if we do not fight back. Not if we show them we are not a threat. Open the channel." Peter, translator on full power. He hesitated, then did as I ordered. Moment later, a face filled our screen. It was a Kresh warrior, 9 ft of green scales and 4 heavy arms with eyes like yellow fire. The name on his armor marked him as a high commander. He looked at me the way a hawk looks at a mouse. I took a deep breath and remembered every diplomatic lesson I had ever learned. Then I did something that would change history forever, though I did not know it at the time. I smiled at him. Warm, friendly human smile. I held out my open hand toward the camera, palm up, fingers spread, and I spoke in the kindest voice I could manage. "Hello, my name is Elena Vasquez. My ship is broken. We mean you no harm. Would you please help us?" The commander's face froze. His yellow eyes went wide. His forearms began to tremble. For a long moment he did not speak at all. Then slowly he dropped to his knees in front of the camera. All 4 of his arms crossed over his chest. His forehead touched the floor. "My queen," he said, My queen, forgive me. I did not know it was you. Peter and I looked at each other. I had no idea what was happening, but I knew one thing for certain: whatever I had just done, it had stopped them from blowing up my ship. Please, I said carefully, please stand up. I only want help with my engines. Yes, my queen. At once, my queen. We will tow you to the surface. We will repair your mighty vessel. We will serve you in all things. The screen went dark. I sat down hard in my chair. Peter, I whispered, what just happened? I have no idea, Captain, but I think we might live through today after all. Clara's voice came over the intercom. Tired and confused. Hey, why did the 3 giant warships just start moving away from us, and why are they towing us? Somewhere, did we make friends or something? Something like that, I said. Clara, come up to the bridge. I think we need to have a very careful talk about what just happened. 20 minutes later, all 3 of us stood on the bridge as our broken ship was pulled gently down through the clouds of the crash homeworld. On every screen we could see warships escorting us, not attacking, escorting, as if we were royalty being welcomed home. Pull up everything we have on Kresh culture, I told Peter. Every report, every note, every little detail. Something I did just now meant something to them, and I need to know what. Peter worked fast. Files filled the screens around us, reports from distant scouts, stolen documents, old transmissions. Most of it was about war, about ranks, about honor and shame among their warrior class. And then Clara, who had been reading over my shoulder, suddenly gasped. Captain, look at this part about their submission rituals. I read the section she pointed to. My blood went cold. When a Kresh warlord surrendered an entire star system, there was only one way to do it. The defeated leader had to do 3 things. First, they had to bare their teeth at the victor, which was seen as the final act of an animal accepting its master. Second, they had to show their weak, soft fingers palm up to prove they could no longer fight. And third, they had to speak in a gentle tone, asking for mercy from the one who had conquered them. I had smiled. I had shown my open palm. I had spoken in a kind voice. I had by pure accident performed the crash ritual of ultimate surrender. Except I had done it from a position of apparent strength, because my ship had arrived suddenly and without warning, as if I had chosen the moment, and I had not been surrendering to them. I had been asking for their help. In their culture, this meant only one thing. I was not a defeated warlord. I was the opposite. I was a being so powerful, so certain of my victory, that I was performing the surrender ritual in reverse, claiming them as my subjects. Oh no, I whispered. Oh no, no, no. Captain, Peter said slowly, I think they believe you just conquered their entire planet. I did not conquer anything. I asked for a tow. They do not know that. Their commander just called you queen. Clara put her hands over her mouth. What do we do? I stared out the viewport. Below us, the capital city was coming into view. It was enormous, a sea of bright towers and golden domes stretching to the horizon. And as we dropped lower, I could see something that made my heart stop. Crowds, millions of them, filling every street, every plaza, every rooftop. They had been called to the capital by some signal we had not seen, and they were all waiting for their new queen to arrive. My little broken ship was being pulled toward a massive landing platform at the center of the city, a platform covered in red cloth, a platform surrounded by thousands of warriors on their knees, heads bowed. Captain Peter said quietly, "What are we going to do?" I closed my eyes. I thought about my mission. I thought about my orders. I thought about the 80-to-1 fleet ratio. I thought about the millions of people down there waiting for their queen to step off the ship. "We are going to land," I said. "We are going to smile politely. We are going to say as little as possible, and we are going to send an emergency message to Earth the moment we get the chance." And then what? And then, Peter, we are going to pretend I am a queen until someone smarter than me figures out how to fix this. The landing platform grew closer. The crowd began to sing. It was a song of welcome, ancient and deep, sung by millions of voices at once. The sound shook my ship. I stood up. I straightened my uniform. I took the deepest breath of my entire life, and I walked toward the door, ready to meet the world I had just conquered by accident. The door opened, and the roar of the crowd hit me like a physical wave. I stepped out onto the red platform, my boots clicking against stone that had been polished for 1,000 years. Sun was bright, the air smelled of spice, and something sweet I could not name. And before me, as far as my eyes could see, every single creche on the platform dropped to their knees. Every one of them, 9 ft tall, 4 arms, yellow eyes, and every single one of them touched their forehead to the ground when I appeared. The silence that fell was so complete I could hear my own heart beating. Peter and Clara stepped out behind me. Clara made a small squeaking noise. Peter whispered, "Just wave, Captain. Just wave and smile. Small smile, not a big one." I raised my hand slowly. The crowd gasped as one. A man in golden robes walked forward. He was older than they warriors around him, his scales darker, his eyes deeper, a high priest perhaps, or a senior advisor. He knelt before me and lifted a cushion. On the cushion rested a circlet of bright metal shaped like a crown of thorns, but beautiful, set with stones that glowed with their own soft light. "My queen," he said in a voice that carried across the entire platform. "We have waited 9,000 years for a true ruler. The prophecy said you would come from the sky in a broken vessel with soft hands and a gentle voice. You would conquer us not with fire but with peace. You would rule us not with fear but with wisdom. And today, my queen, the prophecy is complete." I stared at him. I stared at the crown. I stared at the millions of faces waiting for me to speak. Behind me, Peter whispered, "Captain, what do we do?" I did not know. I truly did not know. But I knew what I could not do. I could not run. I could not refuse. If I said no, if I tried to explain, this entire crowd might turn against us, and my ship was too broken to fly. My crew would die, and worse, the creche might take it as an insult and go to war with Earth. So I did the only thing I could think of. I nodded once slowly like a queen, accepting what was hers. The priest lifted the circlet and placed it on my head. It was heavier than I expected. It was cold against my skin. And when it settled into place, a sound came from the crowd that I will never forget as long as I live. It was a roar of joy so loud that birds in the distant trees took flight in black clouds. It was the sound of a species that had been at war for 9,000 years, finally finding Something to believe in. I raised my hand once more, and the roar doubled. Peter leaned close to my ear. "Captain," he whispered, "I think you just became the Empress of 9 billion warriors." I kept my face calm. I kept my small smile in place, but inside my head one sentence played over and over. I had come here for a tow truck. I had left with a kingdom. The priest led us down from the platform. 4 warriors walked at each corner of our little group, their heads bowed, their weapons held backward in the old sign of honor. Clara was breathing too fast. Peter was squeezing my shoulder so hard I could feel bruises forming, and I kept walking one step at a time because stopping was not an option. A great hall waited for us at the end of the walk. Its doors were taller than my ship. Inside, a throne of bone and crystal sat on a platform of black stone. The priest gestured for me to sit. I sat. Peter and Clara stood on either side of me, trying very hard to look like royal advisors instead of 2 terrified humans very far from home. The priest spoke. "My queen, the council of elders awaits your first command. What is your will?" I opened my mouth. I had no idea what to say. 1,000 thoughts ran through my head. If I gave a bad command, I might start a civil war. If I gave a good command, I might make the problem worse by proving I could rule them. If I said nothing, they might think I was testing them. So I did what my diplomatic training had taught me to do when faced with an impossible situation. I stalled. "I must consult the stars," I said in my most serious voice. "I must speak with my advisors on high. I will give my commands when the time is right. Until then, the council will continue as before. No new wars, no great changes. Peace across the land." The priest bowed deeply. "A wise beginning, my queen. The council will obey." Across the hall I could see Kresh nobles whispering to each other. The words I had used were simple, but in their culture they meant something huge. No new wars meant all current wars must stop. Peace across the land meant every clan must lay down their weapons. Without meaning to, I had just ended 9 separate conflicts that had been going on for generations. Peter leaned in. "Captain, I am recording all of this. Earth Command is going to lose their minds. Send the message as soon as we have a secure line." I whispered back. "Tell them everything. Tell them I need help. Tell them I need it yesterday." A great feast was brought in. Meats I did not recognize, fruits the size of melons, drinks that glowed. I ate carefully, politely, and watched every move I made, because I was starting to learn something important. Every small thing I did was being studied by 1,000 eyes. The way I held my fork, the way I wiped my mouth, the way I looked at people. Each tiny action was being written down by scribes along the walls to become law and tradition for the next 1,000 years. When I scratched my nose, 3 scribes made notes. When I took a sip of water, a servant wrote it down. When I said thank you to a young warrior who brought me more bread, the entire hall went quiet, because queens did not thank servants ever. In their whole history, no ruler had ever thanked a lower-born servant. It was unheard of. It was shocking, and because I had done it, from now on it would be expected. I was changing their society with every breath I took. Hours later, when the feast ended, the priest led us to a private chamber. He bowed once more and left us alone. Thick Doors closed behind him, guards stood outside, but we were finally at last alone. Clara collapsed onto a couch and put her face in her hands. Oh my stars, oh my stars, oh my stars. Peter was already at a panel setting up a secure channel to Earth. I am sending the message now, Captain. Full report, video, everything. I took off the crown and set it gently on a table. My head felt strange without it. I caught my reflection in a tall mirror on the wall. I looked pale. My hair was a mess. My uniform was wrinkled, and yet somehow I had just become the ruler of 9 billion people. Peter, I said quietly, when Earth answers, tell them one thing above all else. Tell them I did not mean for this to happen. Tell them I am trying to keep us alive, and tell them that whatever they decide, we have to be very, very careful. These people believe in me now. If we break their faith, the whole planet could turn on us, but if we handle this right, we might end up with the strongest ally in the sector. Peter nodded as his fingers flew over the keys. Message sent, Captain. Now we wait. I sat down on the edge of a large bed covered in soft furs. I looked out a tall window at the city below. Lights were coming on across the capital as night fell. Millions of lights, millions of lives, millions of beings who now looked to me for leadership. A knock came at the door. Peter answered it carefully. A small crèche child stood there, no taller than a human teenager, holding a covered dish. The child could not have been more than 6 years old by their reckoning. For the Queen, the child whispered. Eyes on the floor. My grandmother made it. She said it would help you sleep after a long day. The child set the dish down and ran away. Before I could say a word, Peter brought the dish to me. Under the cover was a simple bowl of warm broth. It smelled of herbs and kindness. Small note sat beside it, written in careful crèche script. Welcome home, my queen. We have waited so long. I held the bowl in my hands. The weight of it felt heavier than the crown had been. I looked at Peter. I looked at Clara. Both of them were watching me with serious eyes. I have to do this right, I said softly, however long it takes, however hard it gets. These people believe in me. Even that little child believes in me. I cannot let them down. I will not let them down. Peter nodded. Then we are with you, Captain, whatever happens next. Clara sat up and wiped her eyes. Yeah, we are with you, even though this is completely insane. I smiled at them both, a real smile this time, the kind of smile only humans give to other humans. Then I ate the broth. It was delicious. And somewhere far away in the deep cold of space, an urgent message was racing toward Earth at faster than light speeds. A message that would wake up presidents, generals, and ambassadors from their beds. A message that would change the path of human history forever. A message that began with 7 simple words. Earth command, we have a serious problem. 3 days passed before Earth answered. 3 long, strange days in which I learned more about ruling an alien civilization than any human had ever known before. Every morning the priest came to my chamber to brief me on the affairs of the planet. Every afternoon I sat on the throne and received visitors from across the world. Every evening I ate dinner with my crew and tried to remember I was still Elena Vasquez, ship captain, not a queen from a dream. On the first day, a delegation of farmers came to me. Their crops had been failing for 3 seasons. Whole villages were going hungry. The old king had ignored them because they were too lowborn to matter. I listened to them for 2 hours. Then I asked simple questions. Was there water for the fields? Was there good seed? Were there enough workers? The answers were sad. The water wells were old and broken. The seed was poor quality because good seed was kept for noble lands. The workers had been taken away to fight in clan wars. I did 3 things, each one small, each one huge. I ordered new wells to be dug, paid for by the royal treasury. I ordered all seed stores to be opened to every farmer, noble or lowborn, and I ended the last of the clan wars that day, sending the warriors home to help with the harvest. The farmers wept as they left my throne room. They had expected to be turned away. Instead, they had been saved. On the second day, a delegation of scholars came. They told me their libraries were closing because the old king had thought learning was dangerous. Books were being burned. Teachers were being silenced. I felt a fire light inside my chest. I was a ship captain from Earth, but I came from a family of teachers. My mother had been a professor. My grandfather had been a librarian. I stood up from the throne. I walked down to meet the scholars at their level, which shocked everyone in the hall, and I made a promise. Every library on this world shall be reopened. Every book that was burned shall be rewritten. Every teacher shall be returned to their students. Learning is not a danger to my rule. Learning is my rule. A people who read and think are a people I am proud to call my own. The oldest scholar, a woman whose scales had turned silver with age, fell to her knees and touched my boot. She was weeping too quietly for anyone to hear, but I heard her. I bent down and lifted her to her feet. Another rule I had just broken. Queens did not touch scholars. I kept breaking rules. I did not care. That night Peter showed me a report from the palace staff. Across the planet, news of my actions was spreading faster than any broadcast could carry it. Mothers were telling their children about the soft-handed queen who dug wells for farmers and lifted old scholars to their feet. Warriors were debating whether the old ways of honor had been wrong all along. Priests were rewriting prayers to include my name. I felt sick to my stomach. I was not a god. I was not even a queen. I was a tired captain who had watched her ship break on the wrong side of the galaxy. But snorts, these people were building a religion around me, and there was nothing I could do to stop it without causing pain. Captain, Peter said quietly as we ate dinner that second night, Earth is going to respond soon. You know they will not like this. They will want us to leave. They will want us to hand this all over to professional diplomats. I know, but we cannot just leave, not anymore. If you vanish now, this planet will fall into chaos. Every good thing you have started will be undone within a month. I know that too. Clara looked up from her plate. So, what do we do? I thought for a long time before answering. We do the right thing. We stay. We do as much good as we can while we are here, and when the time comes, we find a way to give the planet back to its people, not to Earth, not to another queen, to the people themselves. That has to be the goal. Everything I do must point toward that day. Peter set down his fork. Constitution, a government chosen by the people, a peaceful handover of power. Exactly. I build them a future that does not need me, and then I leave. Clara smiled for the first time in days. Captain, that might be the best plan I have ever heard. On the third day, Earth's answer arrived. Peter set up the secure channel in the private chamber. I stood before the screen in my full uniform, with the crown resting on a table beside me. I had decided I would not wear it when speaking to my own people. It felt wrong. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Admiral George Whitfield, head of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. He was a gray-haired man with tired eyes and a deep voice. I had met him only twice before. Both times he had seemed kind but firm. Captain Vasquez, he said slowly, I have read your report. I have watched your videos. I have spoken with my advisors, with the president, and with every senior officer we could wake up. And I am going to tell you something you may not expect to hear. I waited. My heart was pounding. You did good, Captain. You did very good. I felt my knees go weak. I gripped the edge of the table. You kept your crew alive. You avoided starting a war with a species that would have wiped out our sector fleet in a week, and by accident or not, you have opened a door we could never have opened. On purpose, a door to a peaceful alliance with the most feared warrior race in this part of the galaxy. Admiral, I did not mean. I know you did not mean it, Captain. That is why it worked. If any of our professional diplomats had tried this, the crash would have seen through it. But you were real. You were honest. You were afraid, and they responded to that truth. Now listen carefully, because what I am about to say will sound strange. Yes, sir. We want you to stay. Officially, we are promoting you to ambassador. Your mission is now to guide this planet through a peaceful transition while building a lasting alliance with Earth. You will have full support, supplies, advisors, engineers, whatever you need. But Captain, the face of this mission has to be yours, because yours is the face they trust. I was quiet for a long moment. Then I asked the question I had to ask. Sir, what about the transition plan? I want to give this planet back to its people, not hand it to Earth, not become a colonial power. Give it back to them. Is Earth willing to support that? Admiral Whitfield smiled. It was the first time I had ever seen him smile. Captain, that is exactly what we want. Earth does not want a slave world. Earth wants an equal partner. You snorts. Build them a free government. You train their leaders. You step down when they are ready, and when you come home, you come home as the woman who gave a planet its freedom. We will not take that glory from you. Understood? Yes, sir, understood. Good, you have 6 years. Make them count. The screen went dark. I turned to Peter and Clara. Both of them were smiling now, really smiling. For the first time since we had dropped out of warp. 6 years, Clara said. We have 6 years. Then we had better get to work, I replied. We got to work. News of my position spread beyond the crash world within weeks. Their neighbors had been watching closely, trying to figure out what had happened. The idea that a small human ship had walked into the most dangerous system in the sector and walked out with a crown made them all very nervous and very interested. The first to contact us was a species called the Javan. Their ambassador arrived at the capital in a gleaming silver ship and asked for a meeting. I granted it immediately. He was a small, round being with soft blue fur and eyes like black glass. He bowed low when he entered the throne room. "Queen Elena of the creche," he said in a careful voice, "my people wish to know what weapon you used to conquer this world. We will offer you anything if you will promise never to use it on us." I looked at him for a long moment, then I gave him the truth. "Ambassador, I used no weapon. I used kindness. I asked for help when my ship broke. I was honest about my fear. I treated them as equals. That is the only weapon I ever carried." The ambassador stared at me, then he began to shake, then he began to cry. And then, in a voice full of something that might have been wonder, he whispered, "They conquer with kindness. They conquer with truth. Nothing can stand against such a weapon." He left within the hour. A week later, the Javans signed a full trade and defense treaty with Earth. They did it because they were afraid, but they also did it because they were curious. They wanted to understand the humans who had found a way to win without causing pain. After the Javan came the Aluvex. After the Aluvex came the Myrick. After the Myrick came the Drell. One by one, 12 species in our sector opened embassies on Earth, eager to know the strange humans who had done what no one else could do. Earth became a diplomatic center almost overnight. The Terran Republic, which had been a small voice in the galactic community, was suddenly a major power. And I was the reason why, not because I had planned it, because I had been myself. Meanwhile, on my world, the real work continued. Years rolled by. I aged. My hair went from brown to gray. I missed Earth. I missed my sister's children. I missed coffee that did not have strange herbs mixed in, but I had a mission, and I was not going to quit until it was done. I built schools, thousands of them. Every child, noble or lowborn, boy or girl, was given a place in class. The scholars I had saved led the charge, building new books, training new teachers, filling libraries with wisdom from every corner of the galaxy. Within 3 years, the rate of reading on the planet jumped from 10% to 70%. Within 5 years, it was 90. I built hospitals, real ones with human medicine and creche skill combined. Doctors from Earth came to teach. Creche healers taught us things about their own bodies that our medics had never dreamed of. The average lifespan of a creche citizen rose by 15 years in just 4 years of my rule. I built courts, real courts with real judges, where even the lowest-born farmer could bring a complaint against a noble and be heard fairly. The old system had been brutal. People were put to death for small crimes. Now no one was put to death for anything. Prison terms replaced old practices. Rehabilitation replaced revenge. I built councils, elected ones where villages chose their own leaders. Then district councils chosen by the village leaders. Then a national council chosen by the district councils. Slowly, piece by piece, a democracy was rising around me. I was the queen on the throne, but every year the throne had less actual power and the councils had more. The creche people watched this happen and did not resist. They trusted me. They trusted what I was building. And one woman above all the others became my student and my friend. Her name was Tizek of the House Vara. She had been born a slave in the old system. Her family had served a noble house for 12 generations. When I ended slavery, my first year, she had been set free. She had thrown herself into learning. The moment the schools opened, within 2 years, she was the finest legal mind on the planet. Within 4, she was my Chief advisor, she was sharp, funny, fierce and deeply kind. She understood what I was trying to do better than anyone. Queen Elena, she said to me one evening as we walked through the palace gardens, I must ask you something that has been on my mind for a long time. Ask, when you leave this world, when I take over the government, how will I be chosen? The people must trust the new leader as they trust you. I stopped walking. The sunset was painting the sky in colors I had no words for. Tizek, you will not take over because I chose you. That is not how this works. If I choose my successor, I am just another queen picking another queen. People have to choose. There will be an election. The whole planet will vote. And if the people pick you, then you will be the leader. If they pick someone else, that is the right answer too. Tizek was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I'm afraid, Elena. What if they do not pick me? What if they pick someone who would undo everything we have built? I put my hand on her shoulder. Then we will have built a system strong enough to survive even a bad leader. That is the whole point. A good country should not need a good king. It should need only good laws followed by all. She nodded slowly. You are a strain. Queen Elena Vasquez. I'm a terrible queen, Tizek. I am just a pretty good person pretending. Remember that. Never be afraid to be yourself. The people will love you for the truth the same way they loved me. She smiled. I will remember. The 6th year came. My time was almost up. The election was held on a bright spring morning. For the first time in their 9,000-year history, every adult creche voted for their next leader. There were 12 candidates. Tizek was one of them. She ran a simple campaign. She told the truth. She promised hard work. She promised to protect what had been built. And when the votes were counted, she had won with 73% of the vote. The handover ceremony was held in the great plaza outside the palace. Millions came to watch in person. Billions more watched on screens. I stood on the balcony of the grand spire with Tizek. Beside me, Peter was there. Clara was there. Even Admiral Whitfield had come from Earth, retired now, to see the day he had set in motion. I stepped up to the podium. I looked out at the crowd. 9 billion faces, 9 billion lives, 9 billion futures now in their own hands at last. I spoke simply, because simple words are always the best. 6 years ago, my ship broke down over your world. I came to you as a stranger, confused and afraid, looking only for a tow. Through a beautiful mistake, you made me your queen. I never deserved that title. I only tried to be worthy of your trust. The crowd was silent. I could hear the wind in the high banners. Today I give the title back, not to another queen, not to another king, to you, to all of you. Your future belongs to you now, as it always should have. I reached up. I took off the crown that had rested on my head for 6 long years. I did not give it to Tizek. I did not give it to anyone. I set it down on a simple pillow of white cloth, and I said the last words of my reign. May no one ever wear this crown again. Let it sit here in this plaza as a reminder of what we built together, and let every leader who comes after me govern not because a crown rests on their head, but because the people have placed their trust in their hands. The roar of the crowd that followed was like nothing I had ever heard. It shook the stones of the plaza. It shook the sky. I felt tears on my face and did not try to hide them. Peter was crying. Beside me, Clara was crying beside Peter. Tizek was crying beside me, too. Her 4 hands clasped before her head bowed in the old way one last time. I turned to her, I took her hands, I looked into her bright yellow eyes. They are yours now, Tizek, lead them. Well, I will, I swear by every star in the sky. Later, much later, after the speeches and the crowds in the long farewells, I stood aboard a new ship in orbit, not the Goodwill, which had long since been placed in a museum on the planet below as a national treasure. This was a fine new Earth vessel sent to take us home. Peter was captain now. Clara was chief engineer. I was just a passenger, ready at last to go back to my own world. The planet spun beneath us, so beautiful, so far from what it had been when I first arrived. Peter stepped up beside me at the viewport. So, Elena, how do you feel? Tired, happy, scared, everything at once. What will you do when we get home? I am going to see my sister. I am going to eat real Earth food. I am going to sleep in a bed that is the right size for my body, and then someday maybe I will write a book about what happened here, not for the glory, just to tell the truth so other people can learn from it. What would you call the book? I thought for a moment. I looked at the world turning below me. I thought of the farmers with their new wells, the children in their new schools, the scholars with their open libraries, the voters who had chosen their own leader. For the first time in history, I would call it what it was, I said. Humans accidentally conquered an entire planet without firing a shot. Peter laughed. It was a warm, honest laugh, the kind of laugh 2 old friends share after a long and impossible road. That is a good title, but you should add something. What? And then they gave it back. That is the important part. They gave it back. I nodded. Tears were in my eyes again. I would never be done crying about this place. I did not want to be done. Yes, I said softly, that is the important part. That is the part that matters most. The ship turned, the engines hummed. Earth lay somewhere far ahead, waiting for us to come home at last. And behind us, a world that had been ruled by fear for 9,000 years now ruled itself for the first time in all its history, because one tired ship captain had been kind to a stranger on the worst day of her life. I took one last long look, then I turned away from the window and I walked into the rest of my life, a free woman going home to a free world, leaving another free world behind me in the stars. And that in the end is the story of how humans accidentally conquered an entire planet without firing a shot, not with weapons, not with threats, not with fear, but with a handshake, a smile, and a simple kind word spoken at the right moment by the right person on the worst day of her life. It is the best kind of victory there is, the only kind that ever truly lasts.